The Maple Leafs get a gutsy win in Washington. What does it tell us about the resilience of the group? We'll discuss that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? Where are you at?
I am currently in a Holiday Inn in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver,
boy.
too.
How was the media festivities that you were taking part in yesterday for the Grey Cup?
It was a long day, a lot of moving around, a lot of chasing down people, fighting for interviews. Battleground, love that stuff though.
Oh yeah, being a reporter, being a real man on the beat, boots on the ground, gotta love it. I assume you had a chance to watch the game because you were texting me throughout the game, and we were going back and forth talking about the nonsense that was going on, especially the reviews. It just felt like that game dragged. It took forever. Turned out to be a really good game at the end of it. Like the third period really started to get cooking. Then obviously Leafs beating the Washington Capitals in overtime. 4-3 was the final. What did you make of it? What did you think of the performance, Dave?
Well, first off, it's weird having a 4:00 start watching a hockey game.
Now you know how the West Coast feels.
That was the first.
Now you know how they all feel.
Yeah. You know, it was good because I got to go out and do my other stuff after, so my night wasn't over. But yeah, I mean, this was looking like a game that I wouldn't say exactly like Ottawa, but like one of those where they just don't have it. They're struggling. They're not getting. They got the McMahon goal, but they were struggling to get things going offensively. And then a flip of the switch in that third period, like they started getting sustained pressure. They started getting chances on net, and then that ridiculous ending to I would say the last 5 minutes of that third period. And that's mainly when I was texting you, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this game is like gonna go 3 hours long.
Dude, I was going back and forth with Nick Alberga at like it was like just shortly after 9. It was like 9:10. I'm like, does it feel like this game is just like dragging to you? Like, how are we still have 5 minutes left in the third period and it's like 10 after 9? Like, I get the game started a half hour later, but at this point we should be like at least into intermission. Well, this game is going to until 10:30. It did not end until 10:30, so I was correct when all is said and done. So it did drag, and a big reason for it was all the reviews. I mean, geez Louise, we had, 3 goal reviews. All 3 goals ended up getting called back, and then we even had like a penalty review as well. So like 4 reviews, stopping time, which really kind of takes the energy out, which maybe worked in the benefit of Toronto because the Washington crowd was unable to, really get going because they were just sitting there watching reviews for like an hour in that second period specifically. But I'll tell you this, man, 2 words really come to mind after a win like this. It's gutsy and resilience. Those are the 2 words that come to mind after that type of come from behind victory. I mean, you're on night 2 of a back-to-back. You cross-border travel against a really good team. Like Washington is playing some really quality hockey, and they've got a couple of really good players, some young players, Ovechkin's playing at a high level. And on top of all that, as you're mounting a comeback, you have not 1 but 2 goals get called back, and the Leafs still found a way to battle, still found a way to stay in it, stay resilient, and win the game in overtime. So I thought that was a really gutsy win last night, and I don't know if it's necessarily like a statement win, but it certainly was a good one.
it's not a game that you're gonna say, this is a game you hang your hat on, right? This isn't a game where you go.
Well,
It,
I'll
it,
say this: if the Leafs are trailing in a game, you can look to it and be like, "Hey, let's do what we did when we were in
yes,
Washington, right?" Like you can look back and hang your hat on that type of performance in certain
the comeback you can.
situations. Yes,
The comeback you can. I think the way it started, the way it could have gone the wrong way. It, you, Sometimes you got to win them ugly. I do get that, but at the same time, like, look at what happened against Ottawa. It could have happened again. They needed to find some sort of response, which was good. But yeah, like the reason why I kind of say, like, this isn't that game you hang your hat on, in that it could have gone a different way. The way that Washington was all over Toronto early, it could have gone out of hand a lot earlier. But fortunately, they were able to weather the storm. But you think, like, you'd want what they did in the third period to come a lot earlier.
yes, absolutely, and sometimes that's been an issue for the Leafs, and I mean they are playing on the second night of a back to back, so tired legs. I know Willie after the game even said to himself, like, for them it's not usually late in the game where they feel the effects of the back to back. It's usually early in the game, and then they get their legs underneath them and they're fine. And that's basically what we saw happen tonight in the third period. So, that was the case, but that just meant that Joseph Woll had to step up and play well. And he made some big saves, like that save in overtime, point blank on Ovechkin, which allowed, Marner to clear the puck down the ice for Tavares to score the game winner. Like, that's a big save. That's the type of game saving save. Now, obviously it was in overtime, but like, you need to be able to make those stops, right? Give your chance a team to win. And he made that one. For sure. And even the couple of goals that did get scored on him. I mean, the Domi one was just kind of bad luck that went off of Domi, bad bounce. And then I'm trying to think, the second one too had a little bit of bad puck luck to it. Oh, there was that was the cross ice feed there where, I mean, I guess the defenseman kind of blocks the pass, so that put Woll out of position. And so then, on the follow up, they're able to score. But I thought Joseph Woll played well. Definitely had himself a pretty sound game, despite giving up 3 goals. I think 2 of them weren't his fault. But yeah, I thought it was a gutsy team win, and they definitely bared down and got it done when they had to. Fought through a couple of the called back goals and still was able to, keep rolling and keep finding ways to score. Nice little power play goal too at the end to tie it up. And shout out to Matthew Nyes too for that play. The back check, that's the word I'm looking for. The back check on the empty net to take away the scoring chance and then get the puck and end up getting a hooking call out of it, put the team on the power play, and they scored like 5 seconds into it. But all around, I would say it was a sound win for the Maple Leafs, a sound win for sure. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We will continue to break it down with the 3 stars of the game. And there was a big milestone hit last night for one of the Maple Leafs. We'll talk about that as well. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network.
Today's show is also brought to you by SelectQuote. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. So get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. So let's go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as always. We've got a new podcast coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find our podcast wherever you get a podcast at, and also up on YouTube. All right, Maple Leafs with a gutsy 4-3 win, come from behind win in overtime last night against the Washington Capitals. Funny little stat that I kind of uncovered yesterday. I wouldn't say uncovered, but that I noticed yesterday. The Winnipeg Jets before Toronto were 7-0. After Toronto, 7-1. Logan Thompson before playing the Maple Leafs, 7-0 record on the year. After the Maple Leafs, 7-1 record on the year. The Leafs are the streak busters, buddy. The streak busters.
Especially when 7 is involved.
Exactly. All right, so we do this after every single win. It's our 3 stars of the game. Dave, we'll let you start. Who's your first star?
I got to go with Mitch Marner.
Oh, Mitchie Marnsauce.
Obviously getting the game-tying goal there late in the third, but I got some stats to throw your way.
Throw them.
Mitch Marner's last 10 games, 4 goals, 11 assists for 15 points, game-tying go-ahead points, 11.
Game-tying or go-ahead points. He's got 11 game-tying or go-ahead points his last 10 games.
In his last 10 games, courtesy of Sportsnet stats.
Sheesh. I was going to say, how's that possible? But yes, you can get a game-tying and a go-ahead point
so
in
it
the
combines
same game,
the two of
right?
them together.
Yeah. Woohoo! Not bad. Not too shabby.
It's coming up big for this Leafs team right now because
someone had to in the absence of Matthews, right? It had to be either him or Willie, and not to say that Willie's been bad, but Marner certainly has kind of taken the mantle and said, "I'd hop on my back, boys." And he played very well last night. He set up the game-winning goal too, right? Like, yes, that's another one, right? The game-winning. He scored the game winner and then had the assist on the game-winning goal. That he just placed down the ice and said, "John, go get it," and put the perfect amount of touch on it so that he could get it, but maybe Logan Thompson didn't feel comfortable coming out of the net to attack it. And Mitch Marner's been great. He really has been quite solid in the absence of Austin Matthews. Team's gone 4-1, and he's been a big reason for it. And he had a great game last night. Specifically, the third period in overtime, I thought he was dancing. So he's your first star. I gave it to Johnny Toronto, the guy who called game, goal and an assist. I just thought that he was really strong last night, really strong on the puck, and was really battling and wanted to have a response after what was a pretty piss poor effort from the whole team, really, the night before against Ottawa. He's not the captain anymore, but he still, has those captain-like tendencies where,
yes,
he can still dictate things on the ice, and he can still, motivate players with his play. And I thought last night was one of those where he was strong. Like, you look at the game-winning goal, the fact that he was able to get down there, like those legs, he's never really been a speedster. And late in a game like that, where it's night 2 back-to-back, and you're on the road and it's overtime, you've played a lot already in that game, and finding that little extra legs to get to that puck. And though he shielded it too, I don't know if you noticed, if you go and watch back, he shielded the puck and allowed him to get that extra second to get the shot off with the defenseman on the back check. Just really, really smart play. And even on the McMahon goal, that was all Tavares battling for a loose puck, a little puck battle, protecting it, and then getting it over to Bobby McMahon for the first goal. That was all John Tavares on that one. So I thought he had a really solid game.
Yeah, he was my second star for that reason. What I appreciated most is, the night before the Leafs had that brutal game against Ottawa. Thankfully, I was on the plane and I just decided not worth I watched a majority and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But
Yeah.
Tavares, with the words he had after the game, again, Tavares is we criticize him at times for kind of saying the cliches and things like that at times, but he had a really good. I think his words struck a lot more after that game, and what better way for he's still a leader on this team to really show it, not just to say it, but then go in the next game and have kind of lift the team, because that top line was being thrown out there.
Every other shift
in that especially in that third period. It's like, all right, Domi, Nylander, you're and Nyes, you're out. All right, JT, you're out next now, man. Like that, that's it. Just goes to show just like how far that line. I mean, JT has come this year. I don't know if we would have seen that a lot with Sheldon Keefe throwing. I mean, he would have.
Well, he did. Like he rode those guys quite a bit. He played almost 21 minutes last night. Marner played about 22 and a half minutes. Willie 22-16. So yeah, like those guys had a lot of ice time. Nyes had over 20 minutes of ice time himself, and Domi almost 21 minutes. So those guys played a lot. They certainly played a lot. And guys like Ryan Reeves and Steven Lorentz, Connor Dewar with like 6, 7, 8 minutes of ice time. Didn't really see many shifts in the third period. And randomly, David Kampf got a shift in overtime. I thought that was a really interesting decision from Berube, but he didn't cost them a goal. So he allowed Tavares and Marner to, I guess, catch their breath for half a second to get them out there for the very next shift, which led to a goal. So worked out. My second star was actually going to be Bobby McMahon, the other line mate with Tavares and Mitch Marner. I thought he was strong all night long. He was one of the, few Maple Leafs who really was playing direct. Obviously scored the first goal of the game, almost had a second goal. Also, a really nice stop by Logan Thompson, but he could have had a couple last night. 8 shots on goal, career high. 8 shots on net last night. I thought that he was pretty sound and solid for the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I know he was very sound. And again, like, you need other guys to step up in these situations, and getting chances. Like they've been struggling to get chances. Like, you look back at that Auto game, that was a big problem. They could not generate offense.
2 high danger chances at 5-on-5 in that game against Ottawa. 2. That's it. Want to know how many they had last night as a team at 5-on-5?
A lot more than that.
12 chances at 5-on-5. 7 in the third period alone.
Yeah.
So
huge. They needed it so badly in that game. So yeah, I thought that was again a more pronounced effort that they needed, especially because there was a lot of frustration and when you're not getting the chances to come down, or you're getting the chances in the game, you're going to really let that you can't let that frustration really impact you that much. But I give him a lot of credit. He stepped up when he got, they shift the lines, he gets moved up. We've always liked what Bobby Mann could provide. It's just the consistency hasn't always been there. I mean, we also have to remember, like, he is not exactly expected to be a top line guy all the time.
No.
But to see him step up and being called in that situation, like, I liked it. I'm like, can this be something that we expect to see more often now? Because especially with Pacioretty out, he's got to replace what Pacioretty was doing, and like that's essentially what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we talked about how Marner or Nylander need to step up in Matthews' absence. Well, we talked about how McMahon and or Robertson have to step up in Pacioretty's absence. And well, Robertson was on the up in the press box watching the game. We'll talk about that in a minute. But McMahon stepped up, right? He scored a goal. He had 8 shots on net. He had a really good game. And remember that one night, it was last year, where I think it was a game against St. Louis where a bunch of guys were fighting it with the bug, the sickness, illness bug, and he ended up getting a hat trick. Like, he wasn't even supposed to play in that game, and all of a sudden it's like, actually, we got to thrust you into the lineup. You're going to play in the top 6. and he records a hat trick. Like
Yeah.
it was like so. Bobby
The coming
McMahon's
out
got
party.
yeah, like he's got this propensity to just kind of show up on nights where he's called upon to kind of be the guy. I like that about McMahon. I really do. Who's your third star, Dave?
I'm gonna just give a special shout out to OEL, Oliver Ekman Larson.
All right, cool.
First off, I want that hat that they made for his 1000th game. I was just gonna see if I could try to find a picture of it because like it was like so what a like simple design but just clever
Yes.
to commemorate. Actually, they even just on the logo there, but
Yeah, 1,000 games for Oliver Ekman Larson last night. Played his 1,000th game in the NHL. Obviously split between a few different teams. Most of it in Arizona, then Vancouver, then Florida, and now he's here and he skated his 1,000th game as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yeah, we're showing it up on YouTube. The hats that were made for OEL. So.
it was really
Yeah.
cool.
So these are those were the hats. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
apparently they went out
those
for
were-
dinner. Apparently he paid for dinner after the victory. He said, "All right, boys, you got to win for my 1,000th game. Dinner's on me tonight." And I
think Willie
imagine,
said he wanted to make sure you got some expensive wine in that bill,
yeah,
which
yeah, I imagine they did. I would imagine so. I mean, they were in Washington D.C. There's some places to go that are going to be expensive.
Yeah.
They're usually expensed by the taxpayers. But in this case, it was expensed by Oliver Ekman Larson. But he actually I thought played a decent game. He was on the ice for a goal, but
Yeah.
I did think he had a pretty good game though.
he got robbed of an assist
Mm.
on that, or would he have gotten an assist on that Nye? We'll talk about it, the review stuff, but that Nye's tip, I'm pretty sure he's the one that set it all up with a nice play in the offensive zone, getting free look.
Yeah, well, Riley took the shot,
Yes,
so he could have gotten the secondary. I can't recall who got the puck to Riley. Yeah, but possibly could have been OEL.
but again, hard nosed. He knew he couldn't be. He had to just be direct. It was like very direct in what he was trying to do with that puck there. And yeah, no, I somebody was asking me. Actually, one of my colleagues in Vancouver was asking me, "Oh, how is OEL kind of fit?" And I'm like, pretty good.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. No, he's played well. So hats off to OEL, 1,000 games. I want to give some love to Matthew Nyes. I thought he had a good game last night too. You talked about a goal being wiped off the board. Well, it was Nyes' goal that got wiped off the board, and Steven Lorentz, both of which, in my opinion, look like they probably should have counted. I mean, am I a little biased? Maybe, but to me, it looked as though Nyes made contact below the bar, and for Steven Lorentz, didn't really look like a distinct kicking motion. I don't know, man. I don't really know what the hell the rules are anymore. It seems like they're changing by the day. But I thought Nyes played well. Obviously, he was doing it on both sides of the ice. I thought he was really, really good in the neutral zone, kind of taking pucks off guys too, creating turnovers and turning the puck going the other way, in transition. I talked about it earlier, but that back check saved the game. Right, good back check on an empty net to take away a scoring chance, which certainly would have ended up at the back of the net. Would have been a 4-2 game, would have been iced. But he comes, back checks, gets the puck away, and then ends up drawing a penalty seconds later. And that's where Marner scores on that power play at 6-on-4 and ties the game up. So Nyes, he keeps doing it. He's just been a beacon of consistency, game in and game out. He's using his size to his advantage. He's a smart player, cerebral. So I thought Matthew Nyes had a good game as well. So I wanted to give him some love in our 3 stars segment. We got to have a conversation about the lineup last night. A couple guys made their Leafs debuts last night, or season debuts at least, and one of them was a big-time surprise for me. Let's talk about that on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured or if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return. Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks put its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. The Locked On at Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti in parts unknown, some hotel in downtown Vancouver. You excited for the game this weekend? We could probably get into it a little bit tomorrow, but I'm sure you're up to a whole bunch of shenanigans. I hear the media events get a little rowdy during Grey Cup week.
Just a little rowdy. There's a zip line here that I have zero interest to take part of. They have set up a zip line like where the convention center is. You're going over the water.
Just for funsies, or like that's an actual thing? Or they just set up for this week?
I think they just set it up for this week, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so
unbelievable.
Watching how this thing works, I'm like, I got zero desire to go on this thing. But it looks
fun. Yeah, I'm not a zip liner myself, but I could see the appeal for some. So last night, Maple Leafs, gutsy come from behind win, 4-3 in overtime over the Washington Capitals. And it was the first time all year that we got to see Yanni Hakanpää play in an NHL game and play for the Toronto Maple Leafs after his conditioning stint with the Marlies. I thought he was fine. I mean, he didn't really do much, I suppose. But when you're a defensive defenseman, I guess that's really what you want to say afterwards. Is he was fine. He didn't make many costly plays, especially being your first game in a very long time. So I thought he was all right. And then Alex Steeves got an emergency recall the day before and ended up being inserted into the lineup in place of Nick Robertson, which I found to be very peculiar. That is not good. If you're Nick Robertson, if you're being sat down because Alex Steeves has the coach's attention more so than you.
Yeah, definitely a message sending move from Craig Berube here, because again, when you're looking at this team needing to find a way to generate more offense, Nick Robertson's supposed to be the guy to do it.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, also, if you're not driving offense, in Craig Berube's world, you got to be doing something else. That's also something Nick Robertson's missing, right? And we kind of talked about that being something he's going to have to work on this year. And I like when you look at the roster crunch that's coming up, I think they want Nick Robertson to take hold of a role, right? And be at least close to an everyday player, not someone to think about scratching.
Aren't they kind of through the roster crunch? Like the Pacioretty injury kind of saved them a little bit.
Well, eventually when Yarncroke comes back, if he's coming back. Sorry, I should say if he's coming back with that whole sports hernia thing. But when Pacioretty comes back too, I mean Nick Robertson likely going to find himself the odd man out. Like it's almost like Robertson and Pontus Holmberg are like the guys that are Craig Berube is trying to get more out of and is trying to send messages to. And it's a tough situation, certainly, but hey, I mean, there can't be any passengers right now with this Leafs team, especially with Austin Matthews out. You need guys to step up. You need guys to, and like Connor Dewar coming back too. Like now they got more options, and usually that competition should bring out the best in players, but it hasn't done that with Robertson. It's almost like when he's in like a tough competition for ice time, for a role, he struggles with it.
Yeah, yeah, he certainly has this year for sure. Like we're talking 1 goal through 15 games for
Not good
Nick
enough.
Robertson. Like that's not enough. It's really not enough. And even like 21 shots through 15 games. It's like, for a guy who needs to start scoring a little bit more, you'd hope that he'd have a little bit more than 21 shots
Yeah.
with that amount of ice time. But yeah, he finds himself in the press box last night. We'll see moving forward if it was just a one night thing to try and wake him up. If I do recall last year, like anytime this guy did get sit down and then came back out after a little trip to the press box, he usually scored a goal.
Was it like
So
6 straight games where that happened to
some
him?
yeah, something like that. 4, 5, 6 straight games where he had, been a healthy scratch and then he gets put back in the lineup and he scored. So maybe they're trying to see if that can be a thing again this year. I don't know, but that's what happened last night. No Nick Robertson. Alex Steeves got a chance to play in his first game of the year, and look, I mean, Steeves like played well
Yeah.
in training camp. Like he was someone who was like vying for one of those fourth line spots. So it's not as though he's just some scrub. Like he to be honest, he fits in the bottom six more than Nick Robertson, but it's like Robertson just has that, potential that has much higher ceiling, especially offensively, where you want to keep that in the lineup as much as you can. But if he's not scoring, he's not giving you a whole lot. At least you can get more compete out of a guy like Alex Steeves, who also has a little bit of a scoring touch. Like if I'm not
He does.
mistaken, like he's scoring a decent amount down with the Marlies this year. Just checking now. Like I know last year he had 27 goals. This year he had 9 goals in 10 games with the Marlies. So it's not as though Steves can't put the puck in the back of the net either. So that's kind of what they're hoping to get out of him this year. Obviously didn't score last night, but we'll see. We'll see if Steves can stick around or if it was just a one game kind of thing. But yeah, not good news if you are Nick Robertson. I was also a little surprised to see that Benoit was the one who sat out for Hakanpää. I kind of just assumed that it'd be Connor Timmins.
I think it's a bit of the balance with the right. I mean, I know you're switching a righty for a righty, but I think everyone and a lot of people in our Discord were talking about it too. Like it felt like they wanted that person with Morgan Riley try that defensive guy, but then I believe it started that way and it kind of moved around a bit.
It's situational.
know,
It became
right?
very
Situational,
situational. Yeah.
right? Trying to get more offense, you get OEL with Riley a bit more there. Yeah, I just think that because you have McCabe and Tanev together, you need to spread the other guys around a bit. And I think also just because they figure that Timmins with after he scored that goal against Montreal, like getting a little more of that offensive punch from the blue line, I think is what they need. They feel they needed, right? And Hakanpää replaces what Benoit does, right? The big size, rugged, and it gives you a bit more balance in the lineup too, I guess.
He's a big boy.
Huge.
He's a big man. No else is actually like quite a large human being on the other side. Alexi Protas is a big boy.
Huge.
Massive human being. And he's good, man. He's gonna be a good player. I like that Protas kid. They got a good squad over in Washington. I'll say that. They've done a good job of rebuilding on the fly. Like with him, Dylan Strome's coming into his own. He had a nice goal last night. Right, Connor McMichael has 10 goals on the year.
Yeah.
They've got a nice little group that they've put together in Washington. Nice little on the fly retool. Rasmus Sandin was a factor in last night's game. Against his former Maple Leafs squad. But yeah, Maple Leafs with the win, 4-3 in overtime. Now we can turn the page. Moving on this weekend, the Maple Leafs, big time matchup this weekend. So, why am I blanking? Who are they playing this weekend? Why am I blanking? Who do they got? The Oilers. That's it. Yeah. Big time matchup. They got the Oilers. McDavid coming to town. So I'm like, I know it's a big game I've been talking about for a couple of days. The Oilers are coming to town, and hopefully Austin Matthews can get ready for that game. Like I'm hoping that they decided, okay, we'll keep you out for the back-to-back and hopefully, you got Thursday, you got Friday to rest. Can you be ready to go for Saturday. If he can't, then there's some alarm bells that will start to go off with the whole Austin Matthews injury situation. Because we really don't know what's happening. And they tried to kind of sweep it under the rug. So there's no big deal day to day. And then all of a sudden he was placed on, injured reserve retroactively. And then it's like, oh, he's not even skating now. And it's like, what the hell is going on? So if he's not ready to go by Saturday's game against McDavid and the Oilers, something's up. Something is definitely up with that guy. So maybe we'll find some more information about that at practice later today or tomorrow. And we'll let you know any news we hear on Austin Matthews or anything else in Maple Leaf land. But that'll do it for us here today on the show. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting us. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.